But man, my point is dildos.
Welcome to the Rewatchers on the pod, aka Watcherers of the Watchermen.
Rewatch the Rewatchmen.
Here we are. We're watching that. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
on the fly. We're getting better and better at this. We watched the next two episodes of Watchmen, episodes 2 and 3 of the Watchmen HBO series. I know if you rented the Watchmen Blu-ray, you're probably confused about all these episodes we're talking about and characters that don't exist in the thing that you've watched. And if that's the case, I'm about to enlighten you on every event of the second and third episodes of Watchmen. Here we go. Nazi Germany attempts to sow sedition in the ranks of American soldiers. A young boy tries on his dad's old jacket. Angela detains and questions the old man that hung the Miami Vice man with his psychic powers, apparently. She uses the oldest trick in the book to get his DNA, the old coffee mug trap. Then goes back to the scene of the crime. A newspaper salesman discusses politics and sells a shit ton of newspapers to a little girl. Looking Glass interrogates Angela about the night of the murder. They are interrupted when human garbage falls from the sky. Flashback to the White Knight. Cal can't wait to open his present. Angela fights off her attackers and somehow survives, even though it looks like she shouldn't have. Miami Vice is at her bedside in the hospital. The Doyles have been killed. Angela will cry later. Red Scare is shocked when Angela doesn't want to beat shit out of those fucks because she loves beating shit out of those fucks. Looking Glass agrees that this is an indisputable fact. Then we are reminded that cops fucking suck ass and your rights only matter when you aren't poor. Angela takes Will's DNA to the museum. Someone is waiting for her when she gets there, or when she gets home. He is there for visitation. Oh wait, just money, I guess. Angela teaches her children a questionable lesson on ghost physics. Angela has a tough conversation with Topher. American Hero Story premieres. Rolf Mueller is dead. Enter Hooded Justice. Angela goes to Judd's house and meets Joe Keane, then passes out, or did she? Then she puts on her detective glasses and finds a figurative skeleton in a literal closet. A man rides a horse named Bucephalus, blows out candles, and prepares to watch a play. This play seems familiar. A man is really burned alive, for real. Dr. Manhattan is born. There are multiple Phillipses and Crookshankses. Will freed himself and bought some eggs. If anyone is wondering if Louis Gossett Jr. is a fucking delight. Angela finds out that Will is her grandfather, then puts him in her car, which is then stolen by a giant aerial car magnet. Intermission. Episode 3. An old woman whispers a prayer into a payphone. Sometimes prayers can sound like jokes. Then she robs a bank. Seriously, this lady can do it all. Oh shit, she's catching the hero, who is actually the real criminal. Then she shoots him. She loves Devo. She feeds a mouse to an owl, then stops Devo. Joe Keane is visiting to send this paragon of justice to Tulsa. She thinks Joe Keane's ideas are dumb, but he tells her that even goddamn Denver likes his ideas. Now she's going to Tulsa. I'm starting to think that she doesn't super understand how jokes work. Lori goes to a briefing about the shit going on in Tulsa. A real overachiever of a slide projector operator knows a lot about this stuff, so she takes slide projector guy to Tulsa. This Petey guy knows all about everything. The joke continues. Lori and Petey stake out an old shitty warehouse and meet Red Scare and Pirate Jenny. Fucking Pirate Jenny, man. That's all I had to say. They introduce her to their authoritarian nightmare processing plant, and she meets Looking Glass. Lori audits his police work, then gets ready for the chief's funeral. She finally lands a punchline. Lori meets Angela. Angela eulogizes the chief in song. Then here comes the cavalry. The cavalry attempts to take Joe hostage. Lori kills the guy real fast, and Angela saves everyone from the blast by using her dead friend coffin. An old man builds a suit for his butler that somehow kills him. The old man goes on a buffalo hunt and is confronted by the game warden. Then he receives a letter from said warden. The man crafts a response. The man is Adrian Veidt. Fuck, I don't know, whatever. He suits up for another hunt. Joe Keane preens for the cameras. Laurie takes Angela some coffee. Laurie believes that there is something fishy going on with his murder. Laurie is a real good detective and is feeling sentimental, then settles for something a little newer. Holy shit, longest joke ever. She ends her message and then a car falls out of the sky. Good joke.
Can I just start with pouring the coffee in the hole with some weak ass shit?
Sure, yeah.
Like, it was meant to be like, I reject your detectiveness and I'm badass, but it was... yeah.
Okay, well, let's work on some other ideas then. Okay? Chugging the coffee in front of her.
Yes,
Okay.
because the other guy chugged
throw
the
the
coffee when it was hot, and Angela was impressed.
Okay.
So
Eating
FBI
the
lady
cup.
should...
Chugging the coffee and then just tearing up the paper cup.
Yes, I would have been satisfied with that. Also, tossing the scalding hot coffee onto FBI lady, who I really like, and I'm very uncomfortable about the fact that I really like her,
I'm
and I'm
excited to
cheering
talk
for
about her.
her. Yeah, I
I
needed a
feel
better
like-
power
I mean,
move
that
right there.
goes into an assault level, though, right? Like,
Right, yeah.
Yes, but
I mean-
no one was watching.
Let's not... And let's
Wait,
also,
wait, hold on. I want to pause. Gwen, how do you define assault?
If no one sees
throwing
it...
This is the last
Scalding
person at this
coffee.
table that I felt like would have went with that defense.
No one's okay. Do I agree with these people's morals? No. Did I need a stronger fuck you? Yes.
Okay.
Eating the cup.
Yeah.
Eating
now,
the cup.
now, what if she had poured the coffee out but then eaten the cup?
You know that would have
Be
given.
sick.
I'm sorry. Tyler, I wasn't thinking. I apologize. I am so
You
sorry.
just crossed the line, buddy.
You need to lube up the throat so you can get that paper down.
And everyone knows coffee is a great lubricant.
I use it all the
Everyone
time.
knows
We
that,
do?
right? I'm not the only one that knows that, right?
I mean, coffee enemas, coffee lube.
That's true. Yeah, it's all yeah.
We're all into goop, right?
No. Wrong.
Why? I bought stock. They have stock, right?
I thought goop
You seem to
stock.
know so little about goop.
Shut up! I love it. It's my thing.
Oh God. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, coffee is a huge part of the Watchmen. I'll say Watchmen best enjoyed while sipping on that Joe. And never mind. Great. Let's
Sorry, I'm
just
sorry.
keep
I'm
going.
sorry.
No, that's a great. I think that's a good point. I think it's something that should have been brought up. I don't know who was missing from the room when they wrote this episode, but I wish they had been there. Justin, Gwen, we're continuing this experiment of you just fucking diving in.
Do you guys want to like come and watch us watch next time?
I honestly,
Kind of.
I
watching
kind of
watching
do.
the Watchmen.
Here's the thing: is as I was watching episode 3, I was like, "This is the episode I wish I was watching them watch," because wow, there's a lot of information that is built on the foundation of things you do not know about.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe let's start there. I don't know. We'll go out of we'll do real out of order bullshit like this show does sometimes. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you guys have questions that you're like actively thinking about as you're like going through this episode? Are you like super confused by a lot of it, or
I really want to know why Dr. Manhattan is on Mars. Like that, I don't know if that's something that is a spoiler or like because detective lady, I can't remember her name right now. Jane, Laurie. What's her last
Lori
name?
Blake.
Blake, which
yeah,
is-
Detective
which
Blake.
is-
She was apparently in a relationship with Dr. Manhattan at some point. She was one of the superheroes or something. Yeah, and there's a phone booth that you can call Mars with and talk to Dr. Manhattan. So it seems like, I'm curious, like, do I need to know or will I know at some point why Dr. Manhattan is on Mars? And is this like praying to God at this point? Has Dr. Manhattan become sort of like this deity that people worship or
It
fear?
kind of felt like that. It felt like a prayer.
Yeah. Do you want it, Tyler?
I mean,
I'll let
you
take
know better
this.
than me because I don't know what the show is going
True.
to answer, but I know that the reason of being on Mars is in the comic book / movie
Okay.
and is one of my favorite segments of the movie. Actually,
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay.
It's Zack Snyder's best work by a long.
It's the best film he's ever made. It was a short film. Best film he's ever made.
But yeah, I don't. As far as the show, I don't know if Tyler has.
So there's you definitely will learn more about Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
I will say one of the main like differences between our world and the world of Watchmen is that Dr. Manhattan exists and plays a pivotal role in some of the larger moments in history.
Won the Vietnam War,
Sure,
according to
yes.
the joke.
Yes, exactly. Okay, yeah.
a good
I yes. That's true.
Okay.
That is true. That is one of the big things. And I mean he's the only, I mean, I say only, he's really the only superhero or like, you know.
Well, what about the
person
guy
with-
who dropped the squid on New York?
Yeah, that was another thing where this prayer joke thing. That's
a
where we're
history
getting a
lesson.
lot of the
Yeah,
backstory
for sure.
as
I don't
she's
know
talking
anything about the owl person either.
Was that wasn't her? She was the right because
Yeah, she's not the owl,
the
She
little
had
girl
an
that threw
owl
the
in
brick
a
in the air or
cage.
whatever.
Yes. So
But there's
I do
also
say that, like that stuff is not spoilery. We don't really get a whole lot of Night Owl. There's another hero named Night Owl in the comic books who is kind of the main one of the main dudes kind of unraveling the mystery in Watchmen and finding out what's going on. And they have something of an affair going on. And
The
she
FBI
she
lady
and
and the owl.
yes.
Okay.
Who is Silk
while
Spectre.
she's with Dr. Manhattan, is that the
No.
affair that's happening?
I mean,
or-
it's
Question.
there might be a little overlap.
Okay.
We're talking sitcom levels of overlap.
All right.
If this were a Friends episode, we'd still be talking about it 7 seasons later. But
Hashtag they were on a break.
yes, exactly, yeah. Also, hashtag fuck Friends. Not the
Hey,
show.
man.
My real life friends. Just kidding. No, really the show. Fuck Friends.
Oh, fuck friends.
Fuck Friends. No.
Have you
Spin-off.
guys ever heard your grandmother say "fuck buddy"? Because I have.
Oh, what?
Oh no. I
She's a
have.
child psychiatrist.
mean-
just
Wait. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Wow, that's...
sorry, that popped into my head and it came out.
Man, I've heard my grandma say some shit, but never that. I would rather she had said that than some of the shit I'd heard her say, but... Oh, man.
I derailed it again. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Back to the owl person.
But yeah, so he and the like aerial vehicle they flew in the first episode was Night Owl's design and his like.
Is it
way
not
of
his
transport.
actual one?
I don't believe so. I believe that they had like kind of like
Patterned
it
it.
had become
Oh.
like a thing.
That's
that
a bit of
they
a bummer.
used.
I thought it was like his actual one, so it like
Yeah, I
made
don't
me
think
think
so.
more like. So you're saying they don't explore him very much in the show?
They don't.
That's a little bit of a bummer.
It is a bummer. He's a great character. He's probably my favorite character from the first. Mostly his relation. I like the Night Owl, the old Night Owl who was passed the
Yeah.
Night Owl on. Like there's.
Oh, is that
stuff
something
there.
that like they go into? I mean, that we need to know for the show, or that they need to know for the show, like the Minutemen versus the Watchmen.
Sort of. You will get way more information about the Minutemen than you got from the comic book,
Okay.
and more than you will get about the original, like the Watchmen,
Okay.
of the comic book in this. And we kind of got a glimpse of that in these
I
episodes.
saw Hood of Justice. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a scene from
Which
this.
is not Batman.
I mean, sort of. I mean, I think
They're
a lot of
all
these
kinda
characters are
Batman.
sort
Well-
of Batman.
The owl guy. It sounded like she was criticizing Batman
Sure.
too, like
He-
a rich
he- yeah.
asshole who
Night Owl is Batman.
could
Yeah.
have done better with money than
Well-
being a vigilante.
Well, and I don't think Night Owl's the rich.
He's not like an asshole,
Yeah.
and he's
But he was in the joke.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was her take on it.
Right, yeah. But
in all honesty, he's probably the best human being in that story.
easily,
Like,
yeah. But yeah, the so we do get a lot of that backstory here. I love that this episode centers on Laurie Blake, a character that I really couldn't care less for in previous iterations. I mean, she's fine in the comic book. The movie makes some real questionable choices with her character that make her just bad. And this iteration, I think, is so good. Like I love the actress that they have playing her.
Oh, she's fabulous.
That whole monologue, like that if we want to talk about things that feel distinctly Watchmen, there's a couple things in these episodes. One of them is that her thing in the phone booth. That whole monologue feels like it's ripped right out of the pages of Watchmen. Like, it feels like such a distinctly and specifically Watchmen monologue.
It took me so many places emotionally too. Like, I was scared, I was upset. By the end, I was a little bit heartbroken. Like, it was great.
Yeah. And a lot of that, I mean, her performance is so good. But yeah, and I love the energy that she brings to scenes, and also she knows everything because she's just fucking good at what she does.
I like how they've chosen when to introduce her in this story. Of we've already kind of set up some power dynamics, and then she's now this wrench in that gear that we've come to know. So like people that you already have these characters that like you already have some sort of like I don't know, not godlike fear, but like a revering sense towards.
Yeah, they feel like they're the ones holding the cards.
Yeah, that are now being kind of.
She's cutting through their bullshit.
They come in, and the power dynamics now switch to her in every scene that she enters with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. It made those scenes feel more powerful than if she was just in the first episode and then those scenes happened, because I already felt like I knew who everyone was, where all the cards were being played. And so, like, I was mentioning this to Katie. Tim Blake Nelson, it's not a very intimidating man, but when you put a reflective mask over his head, he goes from like a -3 to like a solid 7. Like that.
I did not personally witness any violence against that man. That was chilling, man.
Yeah.
Like, he had that line down pat.
He's so good in everything I've seen him in, and this is definitely no exception. He doesn't have a lot of screen time, and every time he's on it, it feels very powerful and he feels like a real person. Like, his character feels like a real person. I don't feel like I'm watching an actor. I feel like I'm watching a person. But yeah, I feel the same way about Lori that you do, because I don't love her character per se. I honestly feel like even how Alan Moore wrote her in the comic book is her mother's more interesting than she is, by a lot. And this has now changed that completely. They've done more in this hour of television with that character than two interpretations of that character from a previous story.
Well, and I think we can talk about this because this won't really come into play at all in this show. But the thing in the Watchmen comic book is Lori finding out information about her father, essentially how she was conceived, her mother was raped essentially by who she considered a friend. And I feel like the problem with the comic book is that feels more important than a lot of what Lori does. Like, I feel like that character is treated. Yeah, she's treated with less respect than the event that is the horrible thing in her past, which I think is a bummer. Because I think thematically that's a really interesting thing, and something that this show, we can talk about that more, and we will talk about that more going forward, about how the scars and traumas of our past haunt us, but also make us in a way. And I think that's the thing that Laurie's character in the graphic novel and the movie, obviously by association, really misses for some reason. I don't know why. Alan Moore doesn't, like, the way he writes and the things he chooses to write about, that doesn't feel like the thing that he should miss, and he does, I feel like.
I don't know. I mean, because her setup is really a fascinating one. Mm-hmm. She's dating God, you know? She's banging God. Yeah. And, like, that fact alone is something that we've now explored in this episode in a way that made me feel that a lot more than the original story does.
Sure.
That's fascinating that she's like kind of still in love with him and is
I mean, who thinks they're gonna be dating God in their 20s and in their 50s reworking with the FBI? Like that is kind of I do think that's an interesting just dynamic of I think it highlights the rift that has grown in between Watchmen in the 80s and where we're at in 2019 is that rift between the world and Dr. Manhattan is bigger than it's ever been. And I think that highlights it really well too.
And I find it interesting also that she's taken the last name of her biological father.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that as well. Yeah,
because that's a very, I mean, that's something that's always, I don't think is bad writing or anything, but just I guess I don't know if morally is the right word, but how that ends with Laurie in the Watchmen, and how it's kind of this rape kind of almost being thought of in a good way by the end.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is what Alan Moore is trying to say or anything, but I think that's how these characters, I mean, we're dealing with really flawed characters, and that's how they're kind of viewing it. And it's always, I don't know, it's kind of always sat a little wrong with me.
Yeah.
Could it be a power move? Fuck this, I'm going to take this name.
It could be.
Well, that's what I think in this series, it felt like to me because of who she is in this show. You know what I mean? And what she is
very
now.
much carving out her own path and her own destiny.
Yeah.
Which is amazing in an older woman character.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very focused on this type of character right now because I just read Navani. But I really like it. I really like the older woman doing her own shit. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy too that she is so in control of everything, but we do get to see a little bit more of, she's not perfect, right? She's not we see her winning scenes over and over again. At the end, it's kind of, I mean, arguably a stalemate. Obviously, she didn't eat the cup, so it wasn't as good of a stalemate. But the fact that she pulls out this massive dildo.
You guys, my heart broke. I know I was supposed to be a little bit disgusted, but I was on it just oh, sweetheart, it hurt me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, honestly, I kind of felt the same way. It was a little bit of an emotion, it was a humorous disgust, but also an emotional connection of she does still love this guy that she's been talking to and praying to essentially, and is trying to fill that void somehow.
That was bad.
Good.
I didn't mean to go there.
Yes. Keep going.
I'll wrap up by saying, but then she brings along her hot young new slide projector, my
fucking
operator.
Petey, man. Let's talk about Petey real quick.
Why did he have the mask on? That was upsetting. Take it off.
I'm assuming she told him to put it on. Or maybe he
I'm
suggested
assuming,
it and she's
but-
like, all right, whatever.
He's I literally cannot get an erection unless I'm wearing
Well, yeah, he was like, look, don't think of me as a fanboy. Definitely a fanboy.
Think of me as a fan fiction artist.
Think of me as a fan doctor. I have a doctorate in being your fan.
Oh man, can you imagine how thrilled he is though?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's getting off on so many
If a history major could go back and just bang any gender of anyone in history, just regardless of their sexuality, they would do it. They would fuck George Washington.
Are we typecasting history majors now?
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Why not? They haven't gotten made fun of enough.
Look, that's a solid 30% of our audience. Let's tread carefully.
I mean, we've already talked about how it took this TV show to highlight a very big part of history. I think history majors need to step up their game and maybe actually start telling us about it for once.
Do your job, guys.
But yeah, so I think I really do. I love that this episode centers around her too. I think we've already mentioned that, but that you get a whole episode and it feels like the perfect kind of vignette while still moving the main thrust of the story forward. Let's step away from the main thrust of the story for just a second and talk about Mr. How do you say it?
I say it how they say. I don't know why you say Veet. It's
because I read it.
Oh, I
and
guess
I
that-
read
oh,
it for so long, and
forgive
I never.
me. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
It was originally a book.
I
that
didn't
makes sense.
listen to the audiobook of the
I
graphic
heard-
novel.
I heard Voight. Is that
Vite.
not what they said? Vite.
Vite.
Vite,
Yeah.
okay.
Vite is how I.
VEIDT.
Yes.
Yeah, which is I saw the movie first before I
Sure. Yeah,
this.
yeah.
That's my favorite shit, man. I fucking especially this episode or these 2 episodes. Like so much was revealed without revealing anything.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
I am
don't know
all on
who he
board
is.
with this. Yeah, so they did finally reveal that he is Adrian Veidt, Ozymandias, which he doesn't really go by in the comic. Well, by the time we meet him in the comic book, he is so narcissistic that he is like shed his title and now just goes by his name. And
Like Iron Man.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's that. It's actually not a bad like analog in some ways. Less fun than Iron Man.
At least we don't have to sit through.
Clearly. I mean, we
Fewer
watched.
sports cars.
Yeah, we saw the lengths he would go to get a production of his play that he wrote together. So, I mean, this guy's not the funnest dude.
So yeah, where Watchmen ends doesn't. I mean, I don't know because I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's like he's not in this position when it ends.
Yeah.
So I am as clueless as you guys pretty much as far as what the hell is currently going on.
Also, it's completely outside of time. Just throwing that in there.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
after this episode, it's like, oh, this might not be a real place. Like, and then my robot theory, I think, is slightly thrown out the window. They could be robots, but I think they're like clones of some sort that seem to be subservient, and that he's trying to escape some form of imprisonment is fascinating. That it's like some interdimensional prison he's in, and he has to use the resources available to him as like the smartest man to try and escape. And he's like making spacesuits out of buffalo hide. And at first, because like before it revealed that, I know who he is and like his resources and stuff. I'm like, dude, you're wasting a lot of time. I mean, maybe in your old age you enjoy this shit, but like, you could buy a suit. You have the money.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, he doesn't now. Like he literally like has to be making these suits, and for what I assume is his escape attempt of like some sort of transdimensional travel. So he's using the clones to do that. And there's this guy. What is his title again? The
Game
Mr.
Warden.
Oh yeah, the game warden.
The game.
Yeah.
Fucking love this shit, man. This is what I live for.
I just love that like we finally get a taste that kind of ties him back to the world that we're familiar with, and then also it's like, but let me tell you more about this mythos. There's a man who doesn't want him to hunt buffalo. Like, it's so good. I love it.
I super loved that, like, everything that we've seen Mr. Weirdo do up to this point is very antiquated and, like, steampunk at the most.
Yeah.
And then the moment that takes us out of it is a gunshot. Like, that's the most modern thing we've seen in his scenes. And it was really jarring for me. I didn't expect it. And it was great.
Yeah. Oh, man. And it's great. I mean, we've already had like the Lone Ranger mentioned, and then we just essentially see him on screen too,
Yeah.
like just a man in a cowboy hat with a mustache.
But who uses like a pirate flag?
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Which is kind of like referential almost to like nothing, like the Black Freighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like feels like a really just kind of throw off like kind of Easter egg thing.
Which would seem to be that there's some sort of boundaries or territory.
right.
Is what I read from that. There's so many questions that pop up, and that's what I don't know. I love shit that answers questions, which then doesn't makes you ask other questions that are more thought provoking and disturbing or whatever they may be. So
I really love their conversation that they have through the letters too. Just like, if you try anything else, I'm going to shoot you in the head. Oh, by the way, thank you so much for the tomato tree that you built or made or invented.
Yeah.
And then his reply is like, oh, I'm not trying to do anything. And by the way, you're welcome for those tomatoes.
Say it to my face, you piece of shit. Also, you're welcome for the tomatoes.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great. And Jeremy Irons, like, honestly, first of all, fucking inspired casting. And, like, That man is just fucking. I mean, sometimes you watch these shows and they get these like older, like bigger actors to be like, come be in this superhero thing. And they're like, fuck, my grandkid's going to art school. Fucking go do this bullshit. And you can like tell Jeremy Irons seems to be fucking just eating this shit up in every scene. Like every scene feels so great. And I also love the clones, like the man and woman who play the clones. I really love their performances too, and it's all so good. But yeah, there's more to come for sure from him. Is there anything else? I'm trying to think. We've kind of covered most of or a lot of episode 3. I guess we'll like cover more stuff when we talk about Angela and kind of like go back through that. Is there anything else you want to talk about with Laurie or Mr. Veet before we move on?
The coffee was not a power move, but dropping a car next to a person is a power move.
Oh yeah. Was that supposed to be?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that same thing because it was like, was that Mars that we saw in the sky? The final shot that was like it got blurry, but it seemed like it was bigger than a planet.
If it was huge, if it was supposed to be a planet.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think. I was like, red dot in the sky,
but
Mars.
I think that it's supposed to kind of conjure that.
Okay.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
thinking of that for sure.
But it is supposed to be the night owl thing. That is that her car? Was that?
No, that was Angela's car.
Okay.
They got kidnapped.
That's
with
what I
the
was
man
thinking,
in
but
it.
I wasn't sure if I missed like.
Sans man, no man.
Sans
Yeah,
man.
he wasn't in
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
a little worried, but then there was no man.
Yeah, no man in the sky. Great video game. Jeez, our sponsors this week.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. Glad I know that now because I was like, I knew it was either that or it was Dr. Manhattan being like, I heard your prayer, chuck it.
Just hurling that shit. Great. Well, let's talk about kind of where
Episode 2.
Yeah, let's talk about episode 2, where we left off at the end of episode 1, and a man in a wheelchair.
Who was amazing the entire time. Just loved watching him do his stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, he's so good. Well, let's actually talk about the way this episode opens, because we get another kind of like a historical opening that builds on what we'd previously seen with the Tulsa race riots and brings those characters back. Because we have this, I mean, we just cold open on just a scene of women at typewriters, then are very quickly realize that we're in Nazi Germany and
Well, it can't be Nazi Germany because the Tulsa thing was like 1921, so it would have been
World War One. Yes, excuse me. Yes, of course.
I feel like it's important.
It is important. No, that is important, and I'm an idiot. Thank you. But yeah, it is.
Our
it is
history
like,
major audience is just hating this episode.
yeah, that was my subtle jab. Fuck you. Do your job, and this won't happen anymore.
It's your fault. I don't know the dates.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you are
That
absolutely
was very
correct.
pedantic, and I'm sorry.
No, it's a major. I'm about to talk about a major thing, so I feel like those details are probably important. But we do get this, the idea of this propaganda that is very real, and like this was a real thing that happened to black soldiers in the army at this time, and like it's another piece of history that I was like, again, I'm sadly unfamiliar with it. I also was thinking it was 30 years later. So, I mean, there's a lot of fault on my own shoulders on this, but I do think it's such a great, I just love the way that these like pieces are dropped and we get information, but then we get more information, like, cause we see that paper that says, watch over this boy, early on, we see that in the first episode, and then we realize what it's written on. And it reaches even further back in history that like connects this like pain and trauma to an even earlier time, which I think is really powerful and really smart, and just as an audience, like even on just the most like surface level, is really satisfying, like world building and storytelling. And then we cut immediately to that boy is just a old man in a wheelchair who has hung a man with his psychic powers, apparently. But yeah, I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on Will and that whole situation with the the chief, because he's pretty adamant that he did it. But also he can't go upstairs. Like, I don't know. He has all this information. What are your guys' impressions of that, or ideas or theories? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I like not knowing at this juncture.
Sure.
It feels really good not to know. I think it's his friends in high places that did it. And so he can sort of say, like, yes, I did it. And be truthful, without actually having hung up the body. Yeah, I mean, I want to know what's going on, and it feels so good to still not know.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to understand like the rules of this universe as far as like what is real and what like real meaning like are we dealing with what does it mean to be dealing with like superheroes at this point? Like I think we've talked about how superpowers or whatever are kind of non-existent maybe in that, but there's still like this like hero aspect to people, and like I'm still trying to make sense of that, and so trying to put Will into that framework is really hard right now, not really understanding kind of the rules of what's going on in the world. But it's also like it's difficult, but it's also really fun because like Gwen said, I don't know what's going on, and that like, I mean, you give me a good like mystery kind of like this about like what's like just not understanding what's going on with the story, and I'm in for it. Like, it's just I'm drawn into this right now. So, Will is captivating because there's obviously so much more going on right now, and he's in this world where I'm still not entirely sure what the rules are. So it's like this mesh of just unknowns all over the place, and so trying to piece that together is a lot of fun right now.
Yeah. Did you guys think that they were related? And like, because there's that revelation.
I had that thought, literally, like, kind of as the reveal came, like moments before the reveal. I was like, oh, okay, she's related to Will, and then it was like, oh, the call on the phone, I think is what it was. It's like you're eligible for the reparations or redfordations or whatever they're calling them. Everybody else calls them, and then she had this thought, and then I was like, oh, okay, I got it.
Oh, I didn't see that coming at all. And I wonder, like, what is it in her past and her knowledge about the world that I don't have that made her ask those specific questions? Because it felt really weird and contrived to me. Like, okay, she doesn't want to do this as a police officer, so that's why she's going the back channel of going to the weird, unregulated museum that would, definitely not be abused at all. But yeah, like what is it that made her go that route? Why did she ask that question? What tipped her off to that? Because I didn't see anything that made me think they were related.
Yeah. Well, because she and it's interesting. I think it's interesting to think about also at this point what Angela's family is. Because that's another like fascinating and really like heartbreaking thing to me about the show, and I think or about these episodes in particular. And like there's the conversation that she has with Topher when she tells him that the chief is dead and all of that. There's something about that scene that I really love. And it's the floating metal Legos that kid is playing with that are so cool. No, but the like, I feel like there's something about that scene that communicates so much about their relationship and really hammers home what her role is there.
She understands what he needs.
Yeah.
Because my impulse would have been to go and hug that child, but that is not what he wanted and not what he needed. Yeah. And she understood that and knew it, which is amazing.
Yeah. And she has also let him maintain this kind of control and responsibility that I feel like we're very eager to take from kids when bad things happen. Is like, he's like, don't tell the girls, you know what I mean? And that very much feels like his decision. And I think that even if he was like, okay, you should tell him, like, I feel like that's a decision that she would have respected either way, but
which
it was his to make.
Incredible as a parent. It's amazing.
Yeah. And man, yeah, I just, Yeah, I love that dynamic. I don't know, and I feel like it's such a small part of these episodes, and not really a thing that it doesn't. There's nothing plot heavy, or nothing is really important to the bigger stories revealed in that. But you do just get that better sense of who Angela is, what she thinks family is. And I mean, all of the family that we've seen of Angela, other than Will at this point, are not blood relations. They're not people that she, her kids are not technically her kids. Like they are kids that she has adopted now, because of this horrific thing that happened. Even the chief and his wife, like she thinks of them as family. And so it's just such an interesting, I think it's such an interesting and unique dynamic that we don't see on screen as much. It's very complicated, I think, more than you'd normally see.
But she navigates it so beautifully.
Yeah.
She's also a vigilante cop who's involved with this organization that is bringing people in just because they're possibly related to
Yeah, I noticed
white supremacists.
The term white supremacist adjacent.
Yeah.
Like, that,
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really painting with a shotgun at that point. Like,
But yeah, it's so good. I love complicated characters that I don't know if I can cheer for or not. It's great.
yeah. Let's talk about Cal real quick. Fucking hot. Good dude. Seems just like a sweetheart. Okay, next.
End of story.
Really impatient on Christmas.
He's like, are we
He's like
safe?
a puppy dog. Look at that guy.
My favorite was when
That was the longest minute I've ever experienced in film or TV.
It was long for him too. Like,
Yeah, you were in it with him. You need to know what's in the fucking
when
box.
that guy comes with a shotgun and she just books into the kitchen, is hiding behind the counter. We don't see him, and I'm like, he's opening his present, taking the opportunity
This
while
is
his wife is
moment.
busy. Like you're literally married like a 6-year-old in a man's body.
Okay, so speaking of 6-year-olds and presents, my 6-year-old is trying to coerce me to open her big box present. It's just so hard to wait, Mom. I just want to go and rip it open and see what's in that box. Yeah, I know. We've discussed it 3 times today.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's so good.
She's gonna wake us up at midnight on Christmas.
Yeah.
It's Christmas. Can I open my presents now?
Go to sleep.
That is so delightful. Let's talk. I'm trying to think of what else we want to talk about with Angela. I feel like that's a lot of. We kind of talked
We haven't
about this
touched
with Laurie
on
a little
the metaphorical skeleton in the
bit.
closet,
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Which we should absolutely.
which I'm very interested to know what the fuck is going on.
Mhm.
I have
Were there hip bones? Was there an
I
actual
think
skeleton?
it was just the bust
No.
that was
Okay.
underneath.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have my glasses on or something, but it looked like there was an actual skeleton that she was like, huh, and then went and looked at the KKK thing. I was like,
It's just a skeleton hanging out. She's like looks down and he's like, "Sup?" She's like,
Well, they showed that closet in the first episode, and they hang in there for a while, actually. Then I noticed in the before we get that reveal in episode 2. And that was in episode 2, right? That happens where she
Yeah.
was in there?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed his tie rack, and I was like, that's an
I remember thinking that same
extensive
thing.
tie
Yeah.
rack. I'm like,
A
that's
shelf for every
you
tie.
have
Yeah.
money if you have a shelf like that in your closet of that size. There's also a picture in there that I can't remember what is that they focused on. I can't remember who's in it.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember.
It seems like there's someone in there we haven't met yet, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Like their son or something. I can't remember.
I'll have to go back and look. I can't remember.
But yeah, so it's like you're kind of holding like that. It's kind of like I don't know. If you rewatch it, it's like, oh, it's the closet. And, but yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what his motivations are. I doubt it was planted, like she was kind of inferring, but I don't know unless it's like some serious 4D chess of like, I'm going to infiltrate the police. I'm going to befriend the senior most black officer, and become her best friend. And then that's how we're gonna get an in into like ruining everything, even though and like maybe this whole thing was his planned by him. Maybe he was intending for all this violence to go bad, and for maybe he knew he was gonna die, maybe he didn't. I don't know.
He was one of the only ones who survived White Knight.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe all this is part of his plan. We didn't see what his ranking was in the clan. I don't know what the rankings are in the clan. I just know there are those. So I wouldn't know if they told me, but maybe yeah, I don't know.
But it did have like a sheriff's badge on it too.
Yes.
Like, which I think is an important.
That maybe all the
that
ex-cops
harks back to like Jim Crow, right?
Right, yeah. Exactly.
So I mean, he's not old enough to be Jim Crow, is he? Jim Crow era?
No, I don't think so.
No. Maybe?
So maybe
I
he
don't
keeps
know.
it as like a reminder of his family's shitty
Sure.
past. But I mean, it is like hidden in a closet
With its own
on a
special light.
mannequin. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all lit
And
up.
the fact that like the costume heroes do something similar with their costumes in their closets is
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and we kind of bring that up is like Lori brings that up, like
Yeah.
when my father was killed, they found a costume in his closet, which harkens back to the opening of the Watchmen comic book. But and just I love that she's like, so I just always look like I love. Oh,
which you would probably do.
Yeah.
Like-
oh god, the fucking like chess game going on in every conversation she has. Fucking rules. I think they're so good. They're so well written. Anyways, yeah. So there's that
Yeah.
skeleton.
That's
in the
they
closet.
don't really touch more on it though. They talk a little bit about it in her noodle shop or whatever the hell it is. And then that's kind of we haven't touched it since really.
Yeah.
Did have his funeral that was bombed.
Doesn't she try and talk to Will about it? Like, she knows that, Will apparently knows, because he's the one who told her, like, skeletons in the closet or whatever. And that tipped her off to go looking.
Yeah.
Well, but then he was like, wait, I didn't mean the literal closet,
that's-
you moron.
But I felt
And
like
who
that
knows
was
if
just
he's
like
playing
playing the
coy or-
game,
yeah.
though. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
He didn't play the game that well, though. Or maybe he's just amazing at it. Because he's
does
like,
have his
I
pill bottle
strung
that
up
helps
this
his
body
memories.
and I got magic powers. And when she calls him on it, he's like,
Well, that's what I'm wondering if his psychic powers are psychological powers of his psychology degree that he uses to manipulate people.
Oh, you
to
mean
do what
like
he wants.
every psych major?
Yeah.
Ugh.
psych major. B.
How many majors are we gonna just
All of them.
go through today?
In all the majors.
You know, yeah. Never mind.
Should we do mine next?
I was gonna touch on how mine was the only good one, but such a high success rate. But I mean that is kind of the only thing I can really think of at this time is that like he is good at manipulating people maybe, and like that is what he would consider his power, and that's how he got someone to hang what's his face on the tree, type of thing. Yeah, man. I don't know.
He also drank scalding hot coffee and dipped his fingers in boiling water and peeled a newly boiled egg. I
See,
just
I
noticed
think
that.
that's
So he's a
just
cook.
old people powers.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen my grandparents do some shit that I'm like, no. Oh, okay. It's like when a baby falls and you're like, ugh, and then they get up and they're fine, and you're like, thank God. That's kind of how it is with old people
Yeah,
too. I
how
feel
many
like.
babies you see?
No, well, I mean, I just watched my nephew like fall earlier, like in the kitchen. It was like, and he just gets up and it's fine. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like a fucking baby that is just seconds, like just out of the vagina and is like falls. That's not what I'm talking about.
Can you imagine?
Damn it.
Vagina fresh
Drop
baby.
it immediately.
r/oddly specific.
I've thought about that before, actually. Like, how many babies have been dropped when they've been
They're
birthed?
slippery, man.
It's
Right
a
out-
joke where you dropped on your head as a child.
Well, that's as a child, like every
Because, like,
I
in
know
the
people
hospital.
who were literally dropped on their head as a child.
Right, yeah.
But
Like in the olden days, I feel like it was probably less often because they're giving birth in like a bed or something. But like those hospital beds are like it's just a cliff at the edge of that. It's just the baby just drop right off of there. If the doctor is not paying attention,
The cliffs of insanity. The doctor's not paying attention at that point.
What
it's
is he
got to
doing?
have
Is
happened,
he-
all right. That's all I'm saying.
Is he watching Friends?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's going to hold that doctor's attention? This
30,
is the most exciting
40
part.
years ago, he's got a cigarette in his mouth. He's going up to take a puff.
He's probably drinking the
Oh,
alcohol
shit.
that was given to. Where the hell were we?
Ooh.
Yeah. I think we
we covered everything.
I think we covered everything.
Dropping babies.
Unless do you guys do you have any thoughts? You probably don't. It's
there were
of who took Will, who sucked his car or sucked Angela's car away and took him. Do you guys have any ideas or thoughts or?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I really have no idea.
Okay.
No clue.
Okay.
Angela's final words in episode 3, what the fuck, as her car flies away. That basically sums up how I felt at the end of each episode so far.
I loved it that she was left with the wheelchair. They took her car. She's got a wheelchair now.
Yeah.
Now.
Ride that home.
I do love these episodes kind of work as a really good pair because you get like that almost same exact ending with Laurie.
Yeah.
where
She even
it's just
says,
a,
like, what the...
Yeah, she
Yeah.
doesn't quite finish it, but yeah, it's like that same thing.
The
and
car
it just
dropping
ends with her
down.
laughter.
Yeah.
Like that's it's really fantastic. Well, great. Any other like stray thoughts on these episodes?
There's a good. I feel like in these 2 episodes more so than the first. There's some film references.
Okay.
There's
yeah,
like in
sure.
episode 2 during his play. I don't know the name of that fucking song. It's super famous, and I should classical piece.
The
one that the violinist is playing? Oh, Flight of the Valkyries.
Flight of the
Yeah,
Valkyries.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
By Wagner.
that is. There's a
Which
whole,
is in the movie.
yes,
Yeah.
with Dr. Manhattan in a very different type of scene, which is every frame of painting does a good video on music in film and how Watchmen is just shit. And that he talks about that scene specifically with that song and how it's used. And it's weird, especially after seeing that, how this is used to reference that in a different way, but also kind of similar to how that's specifically just referencing Apocalypse Now, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. So there's stuff like that. There's one other one I'm trying to remember. I mean, I feel like, all right, not that we want to talk about this forever, but I feel like Dr. Manhattan's penis is significantly bigger in the movie than it is in the comic book. I'm going to throw that out there. And that was the joke when the movie came out, right? Was
Yeah.
like, don't take your girlfriend to go see it, and if you do, you got to give a disclaimer.
Well, I mean,
This is a CGI penis. It's not, when it's flaccid, it's not that big. But we did have some references to that in this one, I feel like, which, I don't know, may not necessarily be a film one, but I feel like the comic, it wasn't as jarring. I'm trying to think. There's at least one other one. Cannot remember for the life of me the film reference I saw.
I'm trying to blank on him.
Yeah.
I do think. I mean, we've already talked about kind of her monologue in the phone booth. That feels like
I mean, that's.
Watchmen at its Watchmeniest.
I mean, it's definitely quoted, kind of like sort of quoting
Yeah.
Rorschach a bit,
Yeah,
which is weird because that was all an inner monologue by
Right.
Rorschach. Or did he write that in his journal?
well, I think
technically?
that it's assumed that all of that stuff, because even in the comic book, the way that it's inked into kind of what
The
look like
journal
scraps
writing.
or paper, scraps of
Gotcha.
paper.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that she would have read it. So.
Yeah. But then one other line that is fine, but I think is so just fucking blatantly a line that when someone wrote it is like, this is a fucking Watchmen line, is when Looking Glass and Angela are in the car and he's asking her questions and she's like, you're a cold motherfucker, Glass. And he's like, then why am I crying under here? Just like the delivery, that line, I'm like, this is fucking Watchmen trailer line. Like, it's just so, like, there's something about it that just oozes fucking the weird, like, Watchmen tone. And it's great. We didn't talk about Pirate Jenny, mostly because there's not a lot to talk about her.
I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, this episode was a reveal for me that she was supposed to be a pirate. Yeah. I thought she was Gypsy Jenny.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's such a great reveal.
I'm
all right.
Pirate Jenny. Who the fuck are you? I'm Pirate Jenny. Yeah, that's good.
All right. Well, next week we'll just watch the next 2 episodes. So episodes 4 and 5. 5 was originally the episode that I was like, we could probably talk a very long time about this. So we might talk a lot about it. We'll
plan on it.
But it's we'll get into some real meaty stuff in the next couple episodes. So go ahead and watch those. We'll be back next week with thoughts on that. If you want to reach out to us at all, you can email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram or Twitter at rewatcherspod. And we will go ahead and take a quick break and be back with some recommendations of other stuff we've been watching, playing, reading, listening to, all of that. See you soon. Welcome back to the recommendation section of the podcast where we talk about other shit other than what we are watching specifically for this podcast. We're going to go ahead and start with the ghost that haunts our podcast, the void that has been left by our good friend Mitchell Marshall, who is now adventuring far and wide. But we think that his recommendations are still relevant and needed at this time. So we've decided to commune with what we think might be Mitchell. It's hard to tell on a Ouija board. We're going to tell you what he recommends this week. This week was just a resounding pumpkin spiced message from Mitchell's spirit. Go listen to the new Taylor Swift album. I can't say for sure if it's good or bad, but Mitchell loves it. Fucking loves it so goddamn much. And you need to listen to it immediately. That's what he's saying through me. You won't regret it. I'm a huge Swift head. Maybe you need to listen to all of her albums before this one so you have the context. I don't know. But that's from Mitchell. Mitchell, thank you. We love you. We miss you. Rest in peace. I am going to go ahead and recommend. I have a kind of a weird recommendation. I started watching a show called Baskets, and it's a show that was on FX. I don't know what year it premiered. I think it's over now. I think it's only 4 seasons. But Baskets is a show that Zach Galifianakis stars in, where he plays a man who went to France to go to clown school and failed out of clown school and now has to come home to California and gets a job as a rodeo clown. And I watched the first episode a while ago and I was like, it's just not funny. And I feel like it should be. And I don't know why I felt the urge to start it again, but I watched it. I started watching it this week and burned through the first season pretty fast. The first couple episodes are still not really great. But man, once that show gets going, it becomes this very, I mean, it's funny, but it's very sad, which I think is fitting about that's, in a show about a clown. But it's just kind of about him trying to find his feet as a 45-year-old who failed out of clown college in France. I mean, the sentence alone is really wonderful. But it goes to some really interesting places, and it's a way more like kind of raw and honest look at just life than I thought it was going to be. And it's really goofy, and some of the shit is so stupid. I mean, he plays his own twin brother, who's just kind of a pompous dick who owns one of those vocational colleges in their town, and he's makes these shitty commercials for it that are pretty good. But yeah, I'm actually really enjoying it. I just started the second season, and I think it's just getting better and better. Like they're taking some really wild swings as far as episode structure and like storytelling, and it's really good. I'm really liking it. Also, like feels very inspired by some specific like French films like 400 Blows and pretty much anything by Truffaut, I think. But like I don't know. I'm really digging it in a way I didn't quite think I would. But yeah, Baskets. I think that's the only thing I have to recommend this week. Gwen, what do you have for us?
So I realized I never talked about the end of The Stand. I liked it, guys. The climax, the final confrontation was bullshit and boring. But I really it was. I'm not going to spoil it, but there was a bomb and I was like, okay. Okay, I guess. Whatever. Fuck you. But the characters, the journey that all of the characters went on, both physically and their individual arcs, made it worth it. And it was great. And so the reason I realized I never talked about this is I was looking at my notes on my phone, and I've got a note that says, fuck yeah, Nadine, and fuck yeah, Dana. So this book made me actively cheer for and hope for these two women to commit suicide. Yeah,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Like I was like, yeah, break that neck, get the fuck out the window. You can do it. You can do it.
Are you my inner monologue?
And the thing is, like, one of these characters is pretty morally gray, and the other one is very unambiguously on the good side. And I was still cheering for her to commit suicide. And I want other people to experience how fucked up that is.
Okay.
So read The Stand. And there was only one scene that I, like, afterwards, I was like, I feel gross and I wish I didn't read that. So out of an entire Stephen King book, that's pretty good,
And
right?
that's a larger Stephen King book too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super long and super slow paced, which
Okay.
I think I talked about before. I really liked the slow pace and how excruciating it was.
Cool. I do feel like that's one that I hear people recommend more than other Stephen King, especially when I'm like, I don't like Stephen King.
And it's my understanding that it's like horror light. It's not
Okay.
true Stephen King horror, and I don't know if I need to read it or anything else.
Sure.
But I liked The Stand.
Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting. I am intrigued. I do want to check that out.
Yeah.
And there's a new adaptation coming out soon, right?
Yeah, but I'm not paying for CBS All Access, so oh well.
The CBS, if you want, you can sponsor us and we will shill the fuck out of CBS All Access.
Look, if y'all pay for my subscription, I'll talk about it on the podcast, okay?
Gwen, I bet they would pay if they were sponsoring us. I bet they'd pay us more than a subscription.
Oh, really? Yeah. Like,
I bet
okay.
we could also get a Netflix
like
subscription.
Burger
out
King
of it.
money. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Because nothing
Fuck
goes better
yeah.
with CBS All Access than a rodeo cheeseburger. That's the only thing. Oh, a Whopper! Of course, a fucking Whopper. Why did I think of a Whopper?
I
Damn
literally
it.
can't remember the last time I had Burger King, but Burger King
Do
money.
they have something called a rodeo cheeseburger?
Yes. Well, I used to get it all the time. It's on the value menu. It's just a little cheeseburger with 2 onion rings and barbecue sauce on it, like cowboys
And
used
it's
to
a
eat.
rodeo. Did you see Taco Bell's new menu?
No.
Fuck.
What happened?
Oh, I haven't actually seen it. Katie came back one day from Taco Bell. I was like, there's like 10 things on it now.
What?
They've gotten rid of, like, I'm pretty sure the shredded chicken burrito is no longer there, which was like my staple.
Yeah.
Do they have a cheesy bean and rice burrito still?
I probably
I hope so.
for you or Tier.
For me. Why does Tyr need a cheesy bean and rice
Pure
burrito?
Eats mixed up food. You must separate. You must separate it. You must pretend it's something else. No
Yes.
mixed up food.
This is peanut butter.
Oh yeah, I forgot he doesn't like beans. Eat your goddamn beans. Yeah, those.
Yeah.
God. Oh, man. It's been too long since I've thought about that.
Yeah.
Goddamn beans.
So Katie was disappointed by Taco Bell?
Yeah, she came home, broke the news to me, and now I feel betrayed. I need to go
Bummer.
and see it for myself and then cry.
Make sure it's not
Damn
fake
it.
news.
Yeah.
Bummer. Any other recommendations, Gwen?
Yes. The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. it's like very basic, unoriginal.
It's
killing me today.
Okay,
your recommendations this week
finish.
sound like Tyler's recommendations from last week.
Okay, it's grim dark fantasy. It's not like, as far as world building and magic systems, it does absolutely nothing original and kind of ignores world building, and it's kind of really refreshing and amazing. It totally focuses on the characters. It's great. Like I like where the genre is going in all its different ways, but just for some reason, this not trying to do anything new or spectacular. Like, there's Gandalf. He's just Gandalf.
He just calls him Gandalf?
His name is
Randolph.
it starts
Randolph
with an A.
the-
Yeah, Randolph the blue.
The Bly.
And like, there's a barbarian and an Inquisition member, and there's political bullshit. But it was really great, and like, the first book felt like I got through the climax and was like, oh, this is the end of the book. I thought that we were like going for Act 2. It was really weird, but I really, really liked it, and I'm excited for book 2, which I don't get for like 6 months. That's the downside to Libby I didn't tell you about, is you have to wait in line for books.
Oh, like you're actually checking them out.
But on the
Yeah.
bright side, this is a book that is actually written, and you're not waiting on an author to finish it,
Yes.
right? That's good.
Yes.
For a friend, does Pirates Bay have audiobooks?
Pirates Bay, no. But I got some places. Do you want some audiobooks? I've been,
I did not
audiobooks.
in person see that man give me audiobooks from a Pirates Bay.
Transition to our NordVPN.
Yeah. Do you want to get your audiobooks in peace like a human being, not like some animal?
Okay, last thing. I finished Community tonight.
Oh, okay.
Oh, like the whole thing?
The whole thing. I finished the last one tonight. You know, ends with hashtag and a movie.
Warms my heart.
Yeah, I mean, season 4 was some bullshit.
Thank God. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you think that.
And everything else after it was also a little bit less bullshit, but everyone was gone. And
Yeah.
like, they did fine with the characters that they had left. And I liked the additions. I liked the guy from Breaking Bad and the Nathan Fillion cameos and the...
Amazing post-credit sequences.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Like,
If only my hands were
fine.
bigger.
It was fine, but season 3 was really where it was at.
Yeah.
So, I get why various actors and actresses left, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 5. Are there 7?
Six.
There's 6.
6 is the Yahoo season.
I think 5 and 6, definitely aren't as good as 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Like, they were watchable and enjoyable.
I think that's the big difference, is they are watchable.
Yeah.
I do not. I think 4 is such garbage that I will just completely skip it. Like, there's no episode, not even a single one that I'm like, I need to go watch that one.
It wasn't good. Yeah. Like, the one where they find out Pierce died, it was just like,
Okay.
it's like, I should be feeling something, right? Like,
Well, that's a good question because there's so much. That's the other thing
There's
about
a lot of behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's
stuff
so much
about-
behind
I
the
read
scenes
all
stuff.
the behind the
Okay,
scenes
yeah.
stuff, and like, never say that word ever. But like, I can get being upset with taking the character in that really racist direction. So like, yeah.
There's a really delightful. I mean, at the beginning of quarantine, they did a like Zoom call reading of that episode.
Oh, the one. Okay.
Yeah, with the vials of semen that he has left for everyone, and Walton Goggins wasn't available, so they got Pedro Pascal to read that part, and he very clearly did not read the script before he came, pun intended, I guess. And they got to that part, and it's just like 30 straight seconds of Pedro Pascal trying to get his shit together so he could finish. Like, it is so funny.
I'll watch that. I'll watch
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty great. I will say, like, I agree. I think that those last seasons, I have a really like particular love for those seasons, just because being around for that, the idea that a season 5 was happening was like so awesome, and then when a season 6 was happening was so awesome. I think there are I do really love some of the episodes. That Karate Kid episode where Chang goes and auditions is. I love that episode so much. And like just the way that it ends where like Chang gets a huge fucking win, which Chang never gets, is so I love it so much. I think it's so fun. But yeah, and then Tyler already mentioned the end credit sequences in season 6, which just feel like the products of a spiraling madman on his way out are really incredible.
That
stupid
incest
child.
one, I was like,
Oh god, that is a
this
weird
real?
episode. Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell.
Oh my gosh, that one's so good. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you watched Community. It's a fun
Good.
show.
I
Fun
enjoyed it.
show.
I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, some wonderful people who like everyone from that. Well, like some people from that show went on to do some incredible stuff. I mean, oh my god, why am I forgetting her name? Alison Brie. Yeah, I always hesitate because of Brie Larson
Yes,
now.
so do I.
But I'm like, why am I?
I almost
my
called her
brain's
Allie
mixed up.
Brosh, so.
Okay, well, I'm doing better than that. But obviously, and Donald Glover too. Like Donald Glover's show that I hope he's still working on. I hope we get more episodes of Atlanta at some point. But
Oh, yeah. I wanna
Atlanta
watch that.
is
he
So
good?
good.
I don't know if they've announced it or not. Is he going to be Lando in the Lando series they're doing?
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't heard.
That's going to be the deciding factor whether I even give it a try or not.
It's fair. It's fair.
But at the same time, I'm like, this man doesn't commit to long-term projects. What are you going
Yeah.
to do? Like, he's so creative ADD that like I'm like, good luck getting him on. I mean, you can't blame him. Like, you do what you want to do, but
Yeah.
Well, maybe we get one really good season.
maybe. And then they
And
replace him
then
with someone else. It's just like,
Lando
gosh.
dies? Question mark.
Yeah.
let's hope
great.
so, because Lando and Rise of Skywalker was, oh boy. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, good.
I'm
Well,
done.
those are great recommendations. Awesome. Tyler, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I have been playing Cyberpunk like a lot of people. I feel like I'm the only person on the internet who likes it. I mean, it is a mess. Like they deserve, and I don't think obviously the developers deserve the shit. I feel like it is and we don't know who deserves it is the problem.
Yeah.
There's someone in upper management at that company who needs to be fired. Like legitimately, that long of a development for having this poorly optimized of a game on a. I mean, I don't even know what those PlayStation people are feeling right now. Like, I haven't tried it on PlayStation. I've seen clips.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I've been talking to someone who is playing on PlayStation a lot. They had a lot of complaints. The things they were telling me was like, "Holy shit!" So you're like done, right? And they're like, I'm still having a good time. And I was like, nothing's gonna bring this man down. So good for him. Like, I'm glad.
Yeah.
So
the patch they did after the first day helped a lot, and I got my settings on my PC to run it good.
can I ask you a question? The one of the biggest visual things I'm seeing is to turn off chromatic aberration and the film grain and stuff.
Oh, I turn
Have you
all
done that?
post processing off.
Okay, good.
I
Okay.
turn.
I was just wondering.
motion because their motion blur is camera based. I'm pretty sure. Everyone says that motion blur is always bad when you talk to video game fans online, which is bullshit. Because when you're making like using After Effects, it makes everything look so much better when you do it because it's object based. And very few video games actually do object based motion blur. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that because this is a recommendation. But yeah, I'll try and keep it short. But like, I don't know. The beginning of it is like the very beginning is fine. I think it started. We talked a little bit about that before the podcast started. I think where you're at Tyler Harris with the game. I think that's when I started really started to fall in love with it and like it. The writing is a very interesting tone they've chosen because it is very dark, but it's also quirky and steeped in the 80s-ness of when the tabletop was created. So yeah, it's a weird spot, but like there's some side quest. So the game has the main story quests, and then it has like side quests, but they're pretty much like they're almost optional story quests, and then there's like jobs and contracts, and then like random world event side quests you find. Those ones are a lot less polished and I talked about before the podcast. They become a disservice because there's not as much love, not love, but
There's not
time.
crafted as much.
Yeah, and so those honestly kind of feel bad, to be honest, because they chose to go first person with this game. That is something too. You have to want to buy into the immersion. They're gonna keep you around. There's no cuts in a lot of things, so you're living out the whole thing, and you have to buy into it. If you're the type of person who doesn't want to buy into those things, it's gonna be hard, I think. Whereas like there's times where you're writing. Some of my favorite parts of the game in the early part of the game is you're taking a ride with a character through Night City and you're just in the passenger seat. I think that moment's really cool, and there's a lot of those moments where you're the passenger, and eventually if it's far away you can skip those. There's a button to skip them, and there's some of them that I just sit out because it's like cool to feel like the awkward tension after like a mission that you've done with this person or like something they've done, because there's like usually a conversation in the car, but then once the conversation's over you're just sitting there until you get to the spot. So sometimes I'll skip them, sometimes I won't. Some of the side quest writing is really good story-wise. This game has honestly, I mean, I'm always a sucker for things that have to do with children and parenting now, and like what that means, and like it hits me in ways it didn't before. And there was one side quest that I did that like kind of fucked me up. Like I was just like, oh man, can I be a dad?
It's a scary question to ask yourself at this point in the game, but yeah, I get it.
But to be honest, like, that is like, it was kind of scary because
Sure.
it's like, how do I avoid this? How do I do what because I know he's his own person, my son's his own person, but how do I do what I need to do to make sure I've done everything I can without becoming my parents, becoming over,
Sure.
going in the complete opposite direction. So, and then it's really made me come to terms with death a lot, to be honest. There's the main storyline in the game is very focused on kind of the soul and how that works, and how that works in a cyberpunk universe where everything is digitized, and it works with multiple characters and how they're dealing with death and the concept of it. And there's conversations that happen that have made me think about it in ways that I haven't yet, or at least haven't taken the time to. They may have been things I've thought about, but haven't explored that. I'm excited to talk to you guys after you've played it about these things. But
Kind of makes me want to play it, honestly.
yeah, I'm actually thinking about like when they get it workable on the PS5, I guess, when they release the upgrade version. I'm thinking about playing it with Katie and just playing the main story quest through on easy. And, but yeah, it's hard to recommend though, because it is in such a sorry technical state right now. And some people had expectations too of what this game was, and honestly there's some false promises made on their end of what this game was, particularly with the city and the AI system of the crowd and stuff. That's not there. When they first presented, they were like, everyone's got their own schedule, they're all their own character. That's fucking bullshit. They disappear right in front of your eyes, like, because it's put in so that when you're driving there's not as many people, so you're not hitting people all the time.
Sure.
So when you get off, the game's like, oh shit, we need to put more. When you get out of your car, it's like, we need to put more crowd in. And sometimes it's literally right in front of your eyes that someone just teleports out of the ground. And that doesn't happen a ton, but that does happen enough that I've noticed it. It also, Grand Theft Auto had this problem too. You're running through so fast that like vehicles are spawning out of the air
Right,
and they just like fall and like crash.
That felt like a goal in Grand Theft Auto, though. Like, you were fucking stoked when that happened. It was kind of cool.
There's some of them, honestly, like the first day I played it before that patch came out, I ran into some like bugs that were really frustrating. Like when you go into hacking mode, you hold down the tab key and you can hack different objects, and everything like pauses, like goes into really slow motion. When I would exit it, I would still be moving that fucking slow.
That happened to me in the tutorial, like in the hacking tutorial.
It did that in the tutorial, and it happened to me in the combat fucking tutorial too. And so I was moving so slow. I'm like, am I doing it right? Like,
well, and eventually
does
it was
hacking
funny
take
because
10
like,
years?
I finally killed the person, and that like snapped me out of it, and I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to reboot this.
And I still have a bug because I don't like when I'm playing immersive video games that have the subtitles on. I always turn them off. It keeps wanting to put them back on. At the beginning of like every scripted sequence, it'll always put the first line. That first line stays there. So I have to go in the menu, turn them on and off, and then they disappear. And they still haven't fixed that yet. So maybe wait a couple months, but I do recommend it. And don't go in thinking this is the next Skyrim or Elder Scrolls game or Fallout, because the level of, I don't know, it's essentially like, think of if you played The Witcher 3, that level of interactability with the world. And the thing I enjoy about that is that the characters and story are presented in a much richer way than they are in Skyrim or Fallout, because, and that's a technical limitation thing on their end, but yeah, I like the storyline. I don't think some people will, and I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know if the payoff is great. Very complex characters, weird, dark, fun side storylines. Keanu Reeves playing an asshole is fun. He's not like the most. I had this worry when they announced him. He's not the best actor. He's actually very bad. So everyone was like thrilled to have like this big A-list actor. I'm like, I'm worried. But it's fine. It's not like mind blowing, but it is fun because I've never seen him anything where he plays a complete asshole before, and he plays a despicable human being in this, and it's interesting to interact with that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited. We talked about some things. I'm actually going to start over. I am going to start over and make a different choice because, man, I was really turned off by some early stuff in this game. I was like,
I guess that's part of the recommendation too. If you do play it, don't pick the starting life path of Corpo. I think that is a mistake based on how they translate the life paths into the game.
Yeah, it's pretty jarring. Great. Justin, do you want to just say the word of what you've been doing this week?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
I think he's too young for a Destiny. I was picturing him with what does he say? With a Veronica. He's like, or a Pammy. Yeah. He's not ready for a goddamn Pammy.
Oh man, there's another recommendation. Go tweet to your senators so we can get season 8 of fucking Venture Brothers. God damn it. That's all. Great. Well, we will be back next week. Like we said before, we will be doing episodes 4 and 5 of Watchmen, which will put us over halfway through. Only 9 episodes in this show. So it's great length. Good show. Very excited to continue. But you've been here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
We'll catch you later on the Watchmen.
I love how you've gone for it every time and change it up.
It's because I get to that point, I literally don't have a plan, and I'm like, time to flap these gums.